They said she was just a passenger, the kind of woman who sat quietly near the window, hands folded over a paperback, eyes lost in clouds. Nobody thought twice about her when she boarded Flight 27 from Dallas to Seattle that gray afternoon. The pilot joked about turbulence. The crew smiled their well-trained smiles, and the engines hummed like every other day in the sky. But within the next hour, everyone on that plane would learn her name. Alyssa Grant wasn't supposed to be there. She wasn't supposed to fly that day. She'd missed her earlier flight because her cab driver took a wrong turn, and she'd cursed her luck as she ran through the airport, dragging her overstuffed carry-on behind her. Fate, it seemed, had decided to delay her for a reason nobody could have guessed. Seat 23A. That's where she sat. Middle of the plane, left side, just behind the wing. She noticed everything. The way the flight attendants kept whispering near the galley, how the air pressure seemed slightly off, and how the pilot's voice, cheerful as it was, carried a faint tremor over the speaker. Maybe most people wouldn't have noticed, but Alyssa had been trained to listen for that kind of tremor. Once, she had worn a different uniform, olive green, not navy blue. Once, she'd been a helicopter pilot for the U.S. Army. She hadn't flown in 3 years, not since she left after an incident she didn't talk about. The skies had taken enough from her, she said. But now, as she sat there, 37,000 feet above sea level, watching the clouds ripple like waves, the sky was about to call her back. It started small, a dull bang from below, followed by a shudder that rippled through the fuselage. Heads turned, drinks spilled, and the soft chatter of the cabin turned into a low murmur. Alyssa's book slid off her lap. She looked up at the ceiling, then out the window. Smoke, thin, gray, curling along the wing. The captain's voice came on, steady but tense. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a minor technical issue with one of our engines. Please remain seated." Alyssa's heart rate quickened. She knew that tone. Calm, clipped, controlled. The tone a pilot used when things were worse than they sounded. She pressed her face to the window again. The left engine flickered, stuttered, and then a flash, a sharp crack, fire. Panic broke. People screamed, oxygen masks dropped, and chaos filled the aisles. A mother cried out for her child. A man tried to open the overhead bin. Another fumbled for his phone. The flight attendants moved quickly, trying to keep control, but the fire outside was spreading, and the plane tilted hard to one side. Alyssa grabbed the armrest and braced herself. "Come on," she whispered under her breath, half to herself, half to the plane. She knew what engine fires could do, how fast they could cripple a jet. Moments later, the cockpit door opened, and a flight attendant stumbled out, pale and trembling. Her eyes scanned the cabin. "Is anyone here a pilot?" she shouted. "The captain's hurt. We need help." For a heartbeat, nobody moved. Passengers looked around, frozen in disbelief. Then Alyssa stood up. "I am," she said. The attendant's eyes widened. "Can you fly us?" Alyssa hesitated. Her throat was dry, her palms slick. "I can try." She followed the attendant up the aisle. As the plane rattled violently, her boots thudded against the floor, her fingers brushed seat backs, and the air smelled of smoke and fear. Every step forward felt heavier than the last. When she entered the cockpit, her stomach dropped. The pilot was slumped over, unconscious, his arm bleeding from a deep gash. The co-pilot was barely holding it together, sweat dripping down his face, both hands gripping the controls. "We lost hydraulics," he said through clenched teeth. "Engine 1's gone and number 2's overheating." Alyssa slid into the captain's seat. "Okay," she said, voice steady now. "Let's see what we've got." The co-pilot looked at her, confused. "Who are you?" "Doesn't matter," she replied. "Just keep it level." The radio crackled with static. "Flight 237, do you copy?" The voice from air traffic control was tense, sharp. "This is Flight 237, Alyssa answered. "Captain's down. I'm taking control." There was a pause. "Identify yourself." "Alyssa Grant. Civilian. Former Army pilot. We're losing altitude fast." For a moment, silence. Then, "Roger that, Alyssa. We're clearing a path. You've got priority landing in Portland. Weather's rough, but it's your best shot." She nodded. Portland. 150 miles, one engine failing, another dying, and a plane full of terrified souls depending on her. The co-pilot's voice trembled. "I can't hold it steady much longer." "You won't have to," Alyssa said. "I've got it." Her hands gripped the yoke. The controls were heavy, unresponsive, fighting back with every adjustment. The aircraft groaned under stress. The alarms blared. The cabin lights flickered. Sweat ran down her temples, but her eyes never left the instruments. Outside, lightning flashed in the distance, a storm ahead. "Of course," she muttered, "because it's never easy." Back in the cabin, passengers were praying, crying, holding hands. The smoke thickened near the rear, and a faint orange glow painted the windows. But amidst the chaos, a strange calm filled Alyssa. It wasn't peace, it was focus, the kind she hadn't felt since her army days. Then, out of nowhere, a sharp metallic bang shook the cockpit. The right engine sputtered. Flames burst from beneath the wing. The plane jerked hard, alarms screamed, and for a terrifying moment they were falling. Alyssa's voice rose above the noise. "Mayday, Mayday! Flight 237, both engines compromised. We're gliding. Copy, Flight 207, you're cleared for emergency descent. Maintain heading 25. Fire units are standing by." She looked at the co-pilot, whose face was ghost pale. "We're going down?" he asked. "No," she said. "We're going home." Her fingers flew across the panel, shutting down fuel lines, rerouting power, overriding locks. The system wasn't built for this. She wasn't supposed to even know how to do this. But muscle memory guided her. Every dial, every switch, every sound brought her back to the deserts she once flew over, the missions she never talked about. The co-pilot blinked. "You've done this before." "Not like this," she replied. Outside, the storm roared. Lightning illuminated the burning engine. Rain lashed against the glass, and the landscape below emerged through the clouds. Dark forests, winding rivers, and the faint glow of city lights. Then came another voice over the radio. "Flight 207. This is NORAD Command. You've got company unidentified aircraft approaching fast from your 6. Alyssa froze. "Say again?" "Unidentified aircraft, Vector 90, closing in. Possible hostile." Her blood ran cold. What did that mean? This wasn't a war zone, this was American airspace. The radar beeped. 2 blips. Fast moving. No identification signals. "Could be fighters from the base," the co-pilot asked. "Not with that speed," she said. "They're too low, too erratic." The next second, a flash streaked across the left side. A burst of light. Then, impact. The tail shuddered. "Jesus!" the co-pilot screamed. Alyssa fought the controls. "We've been hit." "Hit by what?" "I don't know, but it's not mechanical failure anymore." Outside, through sheets of rain, she caught a glimpse of something. A dark shape, darting past the wing, fast, agile, gone before she could focus. The radio crackled again, but this time it wasn't ATC. It was a deep, distorted voice. "Divert course, immediately. Do not approach Portland." The co-pilot's eyes went wide. "Who the hell?" "Stay calm," Alyssa said, gripping the controls tighter. The voice came again. "This is your only warning." And then, silence. The radar blips vanished, but the damage was done. The plane was losing altitude fast, one wing torn, both engines gone, and now whatever that was had made sure they wouldn't make it to Portland easily. Alyssa's jaw tightened. Brace for impact control. We're going manual. The co-pilot stared at her. You can't be serious. She didn't answer. She just reached for the manual override lever. The plane tilted nose down. The ground was rushing up. Every passenger screamed. Every light flashed red. Every instinct told her it was over. But Alyssa wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. The yoke fought against her grip, trembling like a wild animal trying to break free. Alyssa's arms burned, every muscle tight as steel. The wind screamed outside, the cabin filled with terrified voices, and the world tilted in chaos. She forced the nose up inch by inch, teeth clenched, whispering, "Come on, stay with me." The co-pilot was pale but alert now, hands darting over switches. Altitudes dropping 9,000 and falling. "Dump the extra fuel," Alyssa said. "We'll be lighter." He hesitated. "That's our fire risk." "I know." "Dump it." He obeyed. The smell of burning jet fuel filled the air, sharp and chemical, but the descent slowed. Through the cracked windshield, flashes of lightning painted the night sky like veins of fire. Somewhere below, Portland glimmered faintly. Just beyond the mountains, Alyssa glanced at the radio. Dead static. The distorted voice had vanished. Whatever those aircraft were, they jammed communications before disappearing. "We're flying blind," she said. "Should we turn back?" the co-pilot asked. "No, we're too low for that. We make for open ground now." Then she saw it. A wide stretch of farmland below, barely visible through the storm. A thin line of road cut through it. "There," she pointed. "That's our runway." The co-pilot looked down, stunned. "That's a highway." "Yeah," she said. "And right now, it's the best one we've got." The cabin lights flickered again. A flight attendant burst into the cockpit, shouting above the roar. "We've got smoke in the back. Passengers are panicking." Alyssa turned sharply. "Tell them to get low, stay buckled, and brace. We're landing whether they like it or not." The attendant nodded and vanished. "Landing gear?" Alyssa asked. The co-pilot checked. "Hydraulics are shot. Manual override might work, but..." She didn't let him finish. She yanked the lever hard. A deep groan echoed under the plane. Then, a violent thud. The left gear locked. The right didn't. "Half gear," he said, swallowing hard. "Then we'll land half a plane," she said flatly. Below them, headlights on the highway scattered as drivers spotted the flaming jet descending out of the storm. Cars swerved off the road. Alyssa's hands were steady now. Her breathing slowed. The panic in her chest had melted into razor-sharp focus. "Flaps full," she said. "Flaps full. Speed. 200 and dropping." "Good. Keep it that way." She could see it now. The road rising up, slick with rain, dotted with fleeing vehicles. The engines coughed, sputtered, and died completely. The plane glided in eerie silence except for the storm's scream. Alyssa whispered under her breath, "Just hold together." The wheels hit asphalt with a brutal slam. The plane bounced, tilted, sparks bursting beneath it. Passengers screamed. The right wing clipped the road sign, metal ripping like paper. The fuselage lurched sideways, tires exploding. Alyssa wrestled the yoke, forcing the plane straight as the world blurred around her. They skidded. Long, endless seconds. Then stillness. Smoke, hissing. The whine of cooling metal. For a moment, there was no sound at all. Then a baby cried somewhere in the back, and that sound, fragile, real, broke the spell. Alyssa exhaled, trembling. "Everyone out," she said. "Now." The co-pilot nodded. his eyes wide with disbelief. "You did it," he whispered, but she wasn't listening. She was already unbuckling, scanning the horizon through the rain. In the distance, a faint orange glow flickered across the fields. Headlights? No, not headlights. Fire. Something exploded in the night sky above them. A second later, two black shapes streaked low across the clouds, the same ones from the radar. No insignia, no lights. Moving fast and precise. "What the hell are they?" the co-pilot breathed. Alyssa's stomach turned. "They're not commercial, and they're not ours." The remaining passengers stumbled into the wet grass, clutching one another, coughing through smoke. Alyssa pushed open the emergency door and jumped down, landing hard in the mud. The rain had turned into a downpour, washing blood and soot off her face. One of the flight attendants shouted, "Fire trucks are coming." Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, but the dark aircraft were circling back. "Get them away from the plane," Alyssa yelled. "Move." She turned to the co-pilot. "Radio still dead?" He nodded. She looked up again. The aircraft swooped low, almost playful, a deep mechanical roar vibrating through the ground. And then a sharp whistling sound. Alyssa's instinct screamed. "Down!" she yelled. Something slammed into the field 100 yards away. A flash, a concussive boom, dirt flying sky high. The shockwave knocked her off her feet. When she looked up, one of the dark aircraft was veering off, flames trailing from its wing. Seconds later, it exploded in midair. "Who fired?" the co-pilot shouted over the ringing in his ears. Alyssa's eyes darted toward the horizon. In the distance, two F-15s cut through the clouds. Real U.S. fighters this time, their afterburners glowing. NORAD had caught up. One of the pilot's voices came over the emergency channel, faint, crackling through static. "Flight 237, this is Eagle 2. We've got you covered. Unknown bogies engaged. Hold position." Alyssa grabbed the co-pilot's arm. "They're ours," she said, relief flooding her chest. The remaining hostile aircraft turned, streaking south, chased by the F-15s. The thunder of engines faded. For the first time in what felt like hours, silence returned. Heavy, wet, unreal. Fire trucks and police vehicles roared up. Minutes later, lights flashing across the drenched highway. First responders rushed to the wreckage, shouting orders. Alyssa stood there, soaked, motionless, her mind still in the cockpit. A paramedic approached. "Ma'am, you okay?" She blinked, as if remembering where she was. "Passengers, all alive, some minor injuries. It's a miracle." She nodded weakly. "No," she said softly. "Not a miracle, just flying." News spread fast. By dawn, photos of the burned-out jet covered every news channel. Headlines screamed, "Passenger lands jet under attack." The story went viral. Millions of shares, endless interviews requested, but Alyssa stayed silent. Reporters waited outside the hospital shouting her name. People called her a hero. The airline offered a lifetime of free flights. She didn't care because there was something nobody else knew. Later that night, as she sat alone in her hospital room, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. A calm male voice spoke. "You did well, Captain Grant." Her chest tightened. "Who is this?" "Let's just say we've been watching. Those weren't random hostiles tonight. You stumbled into something you weren't meant to see." Alyssa's grip tightened on the phone. "You're saying that was planned?" "I'm saying," the voice replied, "some cargo on that plane wasn't supposed to land. You weren't supposed to survive, but you did." The line went dead. Alyssa stared at the phone, her pulse hammering. Cargo? She thought back to the flight. The strange weight imbalance she'd felt. the quiet whispers among the crew before takeoff. Something about restricted shipment. She pushed herself up from the bed and walked to the window. The city lights blinked below like restless stars. The door opened behind her. The co-pilot entered, his arm in a sling. "They're saying you saved 200 lives," Alyssa turned. "And they're saying nothing about what caused it." He frowned. "What do you mean?" She looked at him, the same controlled calm in her eyes she'd had in the cockpit. "We weren't the target," she said. "The cargo was." He stared at her, unsure whether to believe it. "Whatever it was," she continued, "someone was willing to shoot down a plane full of civilians to stop it." Silence stretched between them. The rain tapped softly against the window. "So what do we do now?" he finally asked. Alyssa exhaled slowly. "We tell the truth," she said, "even if no one wants to hear it." Outside, a news helicopter circled overhead, its spotlight sweeping the hospital. Somewhere far away, men in dark suits were already gathering files, making calls, preparing statements that would twist the story into something tidy and harmless. But Alyssa knew better. She had looked death in the face at 30,000 feet and lived to tell it. She had seen things the world wasn't supposed to see. And as she watched the storm clouds drift away, she whispered to herself, "They called me just a passenger." She paused, a faint smile on her lips. Guess they were wrong. In the days that followed, people would talk about courage, fate, and luck. But deep down, Alyssa knew it wasn't luck that saved them. It was choice. The choice to act when everyone else froze, to believe when all seemed lost, and to take control when life itself went into free fall. Because sometimes heroes aren't the ones wearing uniforms or badges. Sometimes they're just passengers, until the sky calls them back.